Just going to Command Shift in, and I want it to be an instrument track. I don't care whether it's stereo or mono or surround sound. Could care less, because the reality of it is that it actually when you're working with instrument tracks, it depends on what you're going to play through it. That'll actually determine whether or not you want it in mono or stereo. So it really doesn't matter at this point in time. So I just I just made my mono. You can make your stereo because you'd probably rather hear it in stereo or whatnot. We're gonna go down. We're gonna put the plug. You guys have done this before, so this isn't new. But we're gonna go ahead and put an instrument insert on this. I'm gonna go ahead and pick. Let's see.
How many you want to make?
What's that?
My life be like just one. Or a couple.
Well, actually, make one for now. I'll show you kind of what we're gonna do with this. You know what? We'll make. Oh, that's right. I need to start.
Don't use MIDI grind.
Let's go ahead and use. Vacuum.
Oh, nice.
Sorry.
Get some brown stuff.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna jump over to the edit window so you can kind of see some of what's going on here. I'm just gonna pick a very simple area to work with. So I'm gonna probably jump out past beyond where we've worked so far, so I'm not having to hear all the audio I have on here. First things first, I gotta walk you through what's called step input so you guys can get real familiar with this, and life will be very honky-dory. For right now, don't get too lost in setting up sounds. Just kind of get something to work with so that I can show you this, and then after I release you to do what you're gonna do, you can go nuts. If you can go to Event for me, at the top of the screen, Event. Now, Event's going to hold anything that's going to happen in terms of creation. So the first thing I want you to do is notice that you see where it says Event Operations in that list. You see time, tempo, and then Event Operations. The Event Operations are going to be very specific to stuff we do with MIDI. So anything that falls in that list is a MIDI option. You'll also see something that says MIDI Real-Time Properties. That's a whole basic drop-down listing of MIDI properties or functional elements for use with MIDI. So you're going to want to get real familiar with it because we're going to use it quite a bit. So if we go to Event, notice if we go to the Event Operations window, you see a bunch of things. Quantize for post-quantization. So quantizing essentially means the alignment to grid. Right, so when we quantize, we're aligning notes to grid so that they shift to a specific grid point of which we decide. So you guys are somewhat familiar with this, right?
Yeah,
quantization. Yeah. Well, I can run you down the whole thing on this because it's not going to take that long. Just understand. See where it says quantize, and then it says input quantize about halfway down. Quantize at the top means in the post, means after the fact. Quantize in the input means it does it while you're doing it. The downside to input quantize is if you're doing right, and you quantize at a slower speed, it will input it at the slower speed immediately. It might come out like this if you didn't quantize it fast enough. But if you do it on the recording, you can't get it back. Like, you just missed the opportunity to get that. But if instead you don't quantize on the input and you go, and you're like, hey, let me quantize that so that's accurate. And you go in and quantize it, and you accidentally quantize it too slow, you can always hit undo and then quantize it at a lower resolution, essentially, at a faster speed to get it right. So that's what the drawback is to input quantization.
Basically, don't do that.
Well, the only time input quantization is perfect is if you know exactly what speed you're operating at.
Yeah.
That's when it's perfect. Great example, and I can show you this because this is real easy stuff. I mean, but let me show it to you. I'm gonna jump off of this. I'm going to get off of the vacuum for a sec just so you can see this, okay? Well, you know what? Let me get into, let's see, we have,
Start making bass drive.
Let me find a good ARP. You'll see why this will work in ARP a little better than anything else. Yeah, I'm trying to find something good. Yeah, maybe I'll just use one of these. Maybe I won't. Okay, so this will work out pretty good. So here's what I'm gonna do. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get in and actually set up a real quick tempo. Let's see, 136. All right, so if we jump over here, 136 is our new target, 136. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set a quick tempo here, and then watch what happens with this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this to event, input quantize, and because I know how long I wanna go, I'm gonna go ahead and hit enable input quantize, and I'm gonna have 1/16 is fine, because I'm actually gonna do shorter than this. But watch what happens. I'm gonna go ahead and begin recording. Oh, hold on, let me get that enabled, huh? Undo my click. And title this something. Low synth. All right, perfect, here we go. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open this in using the window MIDI editor so that I can basically see this. Of course, I don't know why that doesn't show me where it's at. So I can basically walk through this whole thing and really get it dialed in. But here's what I'm showing you real quick. I did input quantize, and what you're going to notice is with input quantize activated, I'm actually going to see all this aligned to grid as close as possible. So if I zoom into the grid, you guys can see how literally each one of these notes is going to hit the grid somewhere. So notice this one starts here on this grid point, and then the next one comes in here, and so on and so forth. So you're seeing them land at the front end of the grid. You're actually seeing them go in. Do you guys see that?
Yeah.
All right. If I want, though, I can highlight this and go to event and go to event operations and hit quantize, which is a post operation, and I can make it quantize at a lower value. So if I want to say, hey, I want all these to be whole notes, beginning at whole note movements, notice what it did. Did you guys see it move?
Yes.
And this is what the result is. So essentially 4 bars. And I don't necessarily want that. So I'm gonna go and change it to maybe quarter note resolution. And you're seeing what it's going to do essentially is it's going to shift it to those positions, but it's going to allow it to be adhere to the grid of a quarter note basically. So that's what you're seeing there. Now, I use this a lot because of the kind of stuff I do, but you also have the ability to, you can see all these in MIDI real-time properties if you select it. And what you're able to do is if you open the MIDI real-time properties window, it's going to say what track are you applying it to. You can set up durations, so you can change durations. You can set up velocity changes, so if you want them to be a certain velocity, and then of course you can transpose. So if you want to transpose up or down, we can take these like up the octave. So we're really given the ability to do these kinds of elements. We can really, what you're seeing in this, both in the real-time properties and in the event window, is a lot of options to really essentially make modifications. One other thing to make mention of is you can actually set the duration so that they're even. So if we scroll up to change duration, we could make all these essentially the same length. If you guys are writing legato passages for strings, sometimes you want to make them overlap. And that's why it's going to say legato. What it's going to do is it's going to make them overlap, so each time they change notes, it's nice and smooth. And then one other thing you see here is select and split notes. What you're able to do with this is if you want to split notes, you can. If you played like piano, like let's just say we did a passage and it was all piano, which I could set up a new one for. Let me just set up a new one so you can see it. This is why this would be valuable. Let's just say I jump in and I write. Let's say my choice is to write on piano, but I don't want it to eventually be mixed down on piano. I just want to write it on piano.
It's not going to kick you out.
No, Mini Grand, it works.
Yeah, upstairs it kicks you off.
Yeah, it's because there's virtual instruments have had a real hard time upstairs. It's the computers themselves. It takes quite a bit of DSP to run it. But let me scroll down so you can see this. What I'm going to do in the what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to play something basic with input quantization active. So let's just say I go to MIDI real-time properties, and I'm going to apply this to the track known as piano, although I don't see. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll have to do this over here. Event operations, input quantize, and I'm going to go ahead and activate 16th notes. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to hit record. Oh, although for some reason. There we go. Let's see if it'll let me record. Wrong octave, let me see. Alright, so here's how this works. I'm going to go ahead and watch this in the MIDI editor. I'm going to look at these basic piano parts, and you're seeing how they're all stacked up here, nice and neat. Because of quantization. I'm going to go to the thing that says select split notes. If I highlight these, what I'm able to do with this is actually split each of these note groups into certain categories that can then be basically copy, cut, pasted to different instruments. So if I want to set this up, notice it has a pitch criteria. It says notes between the following. Notice it also says top, bottom, one note of each chord. So we can actually set these up. So watch what happens here. It says action, select notes, split notes, cut to clipboard. Okay, so watch what happens here. I'm going to hit apply. And notice what just got lost. The top half. So if I undo, I'm going to hit apply. What I'm able to do with this is if I create like some sort of new virtual instrument, which I'm going to do real quick. I'm just going to create, maybe I'll make 4 very simple ones. I'm just going to throw, oh, oops, my bad. in my virtual instrument, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make some strings. Okay, so I'm just going to go to Instrument. I don't know if we still have any good ones in Structure LE. We used to before they made the updates. We might not. Let me look real quick. That's not what I want. Oh no. Crap. Sorry, this one might not actually work correctly. All right, so I'm going to go and just drag and drop these over, do some copying of this, and then I'm going to basically what's happening is on the clipboard, we're actually seeing that what I had just copied from the clipboard is actually going to be able to be moved to these other tracks. So I'm going to take these off of view and jump over to the first one. And essentially I'm just going to hit paste, which providing that we're in the right location. Where are we? Oh, right here. That's not. Oh, I see. Oh, actually, I see what we can do with this. So we're going to back it up. So I'm going to grab the original out of here at the end of this bay. So what's going to happen is I'm given the option to cut to the clipboard. Actually, I'm just going to throw this to a new track, just the top part. And then I'm going to take the next section, and notice how I had selected the top. So see where it says top. Now I'm going to select the bottom and apply that to another selection here. And then I'm going to move, and notice it just copy pasted those positions here, leaving the middle up here in this section. So I basically just split the top, split the bottom. And by doing so, now I have the middle isolated to itself. So now it goes top, middle, bottom, all of the same performance that I just played. So now I'm able to jump in and realistically throw these strings on these tracks and give it a listen. So like you could really just play like, you know, a bunch of stuff on piano and split them. Oh, except let me get something underway here because and let's send this one. And we're going to do this one. I'm missing something. Oh, I see. I just needed more performance. Apparently I did something wrong and I didn't get the rest of that. So I'm just going to track this real quick so I can get this real quick so you can kind of see what's going on with this. Oh, I get it. Oh, that's really weird.
Dramatic ass music.
Alright, so all that being said, again we can do the same thing. We're just splitting these up based upon their criteria in this select split notes, and we can split the top parts into a new track, and then we can split the bottom parts into a new set of tracks. And then essentially what it's giving us is giving us split ranges on which chords are on top, which chords are on bottom, which now if we listen to it, if we isolate it and just listen to just those two sections by themselves, then we get the split portion, which we kind of have the ability to do anything we want with. So let me just jump in here and kind of do some manipulation. Let's see. I'll try this one. Simple, right? I mean, all you're doing is splitting them up. Well, let's take that to the one even more simpler level, and that is that of utilizing what's known as step input. So I'm going to go to event operations and I'm going to go to step input. Now, step input's kind of a funny, interesting thing. Step input doesn't mean that you are actually going to be record enabled. It's going to allow you to do everything based upon any time you touch a note. It's just going to add it, and it's going to add that note based upon the note increment that you set here. So notice how it shows your increments and it shows which types of notes you're seeing here. Essentially, if I want to jump in and just play chords one at a time, I could do, let's just say I want to do something fast, okay? I'm just going to start at the beginning of the bar, so I'm on bar 57, beat 1, and I'm going to make sure it's applied to the right synth. So let me just put this in. Put it in this one. Oops. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to, every time I want to change something, I'm going to be able to do it from here. Except let me make sure that that instrument 1 actually has an active. Oh, it does. Let's do this one, piano dupe 1. Sorry, I just have to change my track real quick because I'm not on the right one. Okay, so we can start a little higher. So notice what it's going to do. I'll bring up the MIDI editor so you can see it. It's literally going to just apply the notes as I play them. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so you can see this. But instead of actually recording, it's only going to apply the notes as I play. So this is really easy because if you guys aren't real familiar with making chords, you can do it fairly easy because this is the big catch. I can play one note, and it won't put it to print on there until I'm done and I let it go. So if I want to make a chord, I can literally stack it. So watch what happens. And I'm going to let it go, and it just did it all at once. So it'll actually put it down all at once. So if you guys aren't great at playing a whole bunch of notes at a time, you know, you're seeing how easy it is to do with this kind of idea, because you're able to just, as long as you're holding on to them, and once you let them go, it'll put them down. And if you want to go crazy, I mean, you can go.
Mario.
All right, so we back this puppy up. And if we want to change this, there's of course there's a lot of easy ways to change this. We can change this by, we go up to the tempo change field. You know, our tempo change will literally change the tempo of this altogether. So if we want to slow this down after the fact, of course we can actually manipulate these in terms of timing.
To change the tempo, you have to have the conductor on, right?
Yeah. Mine's it is active though. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I forgot. Hold on. I forgot I added 136 at the end, so I have to get rid of this. I'll do it here.
Sounds like unused.
So how
Yeah.
do you go about putting that on the actual track?
Now, you can obviously see that, you know, there's a lot of fun stuff that takes place here, but what I'm actually going to do with this, just listening to it, I can really hear that it'd be awesome to have this lower. So I just got to change the plugin so it's a little more realistic. Let's see. Let's see, we can try, we want something more aggressive. So big hard strings. And let's jump into this again. Ooh. That sounds like old school. Yeah, well, it's not supposed to, but I know that's why I like Reason. Reason's got a lot better like guitar mods and stuff like that. But let's see if they got anything dirty.